invisible, relentless, crushing every ounce of your strength without you even realizing it. Lust spirits. They don't just tempt you, they invade your mind like a silent storm, wrapping their dark fingers around your very soul, whispering lies so sweet you hardly notice the chains tightening. Every battle you've lost, every moment of weakness, wasn't just a failing of will, it was a war fought in the shadows against enemies you never saw coming. Imagine being trapped in a fortress that's slowly sinking into darkness, walls closing in, while the lights of purity and peace flicker and fade. That is the battlefield of your mind. When lust spirits have their grip, they don't just steal your peace, they steal your destiny, your clarity, and your very identity. What if the struggle you've been fighting for years could be crushed in less than 5 minutes? What if there were prayers, ancient, fierce, unstoppable, that could shatter these invisible chains and banish those tormentors forever? This isn't about empty promises or half-hearted resolutions. This is spiritual warfare at its most raw and real. A confrontation between your soul's deepest hunger for freedom and the dark forces determined to keep you enslaved, drawing power from centuries of faith and wisdom, from the teachings of great warriors like Billy Graham to the transformational insights of Neville Goddard. There exist 3 prayers so powerful that when spoken with conviction, they become a weapon that demolishes lust spirits in mere minutes. Prepare yourself to discover the secrets of these prayers, to understand the authority you carry, to reclaim your mind, your body, and your spirit. 5 minutes, 3 prayers, 1 total destruction of lust's hold over you. The war is silent, but victory is deafening. The battle against lust is not one fought merely on the surface. It is an invisible war waged deep within the spiritual realm, a conflict that most people fail to recognize, yet it governs their thoughts, choices, and very lives. Lust spirits are not simply fleeting desires or momentary temptations. They are malevolent forces, entities that infiltrate the mind and heart, binding the soul in chains of bondage that choke out peace, clarity, and purpose. Understanding lust spirits requires first acknowledging their subtlety. Unlike physical enemies, these spirits work quietly, often unnoticed. They exploit weaknesses, unhealed wounds, and neglected areas of the psyche, embedding themselves within subconscious patterns. They disguise their presence as harmless urges or natural cravings, making them incredibly dangerous because the battle feels internal and personal, something you think you should handle alone. Historically and spiritually, lust has been recognized as a destructive force that damages not just relationships, but the very fabric of the soul. Neville Goddard, a master of spiritual imagination, taught that our mental focus creates our reality, meaning these spirits feed on what the mind dwells upon. Billy Graham, renowned for his evangelistic fervor, repeatedly emphasized the power of prayer and faith to break chains invisible to the eye but crushing in effect. Together, their teachings reveal that lust spirits thrive when the mind surrenders control, when faith weakens, and when spiritual defenses falter. The grip of lust spirits extends beyond physical acts. It penetrates thoughts, fantasies, and emotions. They manipulate through deception, making you believe you are powerless or destined to fail. This false narrative saps hope and fuels cycles of guilt and shame. But the truth is, no spirit has power without permission. The war is not lost. It is being fought for every second of your attention and belief. Recognizing this invisible war reframes your entire approach to lust. It's not about mere self-discipline or resisting temptation with sheer willpower. It demands spiritual weapons, prayer, faith, and authority over these dark forces. When understood, this battle transforms from a hopeless struggle into a call to arms, equipping you with the knowledge that victory is not only possible, but guaranteed when you wield the right spiritual tool. In this war, knowledge is power. To win, you must see the enemy clearly and fight with spiritual precision. Only then can the chains of lust be broken and freedom be fully claimed. In the battle against lust spirits, human strength alone will never be enough. The enemy you face is not just flesh and desire, but a spiritual force that thrives in the unseen realm. It is a force that exploits weakness, thrives on distraction, and feeds on silence. This is why traditional methods, willpower, discipline, even therapy, often fail to break the cycle. They address symptoms but not the source. The only true unshakable defense against lust spirits is prayer, wielded as a spiritual weapon. Prayer is not a passive act of wishing or hope. It is a deliberate, aggressive confrontation, a command issued from a place of authority, faith, and divine connection. When you pray with intention and power, you step into a battlefield that the enemy cannot infiltrate. Prayer pierces the veil of the physical world, and strikes at the root of spiritual oppression. It dismantles lies, breaks curses, and pulls down strongholds built by lust spirits over years or even decades. This spiritual weapon is powerful because it connects you directly with divine authority, the source of ultimate power and freedom. Without this connection, you remain vulnerable, relying on your fragile human will that can easily crack under pressure. With prayer, you tap into a supernatural force that does not tire, falter, or fail. Billy Graham emphasized that faith and prayer are the greatest tools believers have in overcoming sin and temptation. It is not about resisting temptation alone, but cutting off the enemy's foothold before it can take hold. Focused prayer, especially when structured with clear intent, acts like a spiritual reset button. In just minutes, it can reconfigure your inner spiritual environment. You are no longer fighting with your own strength, but standing under the shield of divine protection. This is why a targeted 5-minute prayer session can be more effective than years of struggling with lust on your own. It is not a ritual, but a fierce act of spiritual warfare, an unleashing of authority that commands evil spirits to flee. To wield this weapon, you must understand that prayer is a battle cry, not a whisper. It is the tool that breaks chains and reclaims your mind, body, and soul. When faced with the relentless assault of lust spirits, prayer is your only true defense, the unyielding shield that turns the tide from defeat to victory. Prayer 1. Authority and renunciation. Taking back your kingdom. The battle against lust spirits begins not with weakness or hesitation, but with boldness, claiming the authority that is rightfully yours. Before you can overcome these dark forces, you must recognize one unshakable truth. As a child of God, you possess divine authority over every spirit that tries to control your mind and body. This authority is not earned by struggle or perfect behavior. It is a gift, a birthright rooted in the power of your identity and the name you carry. To reclaim your kingdom, you must speak with the confidence of a king who knows his throne is unchallengeable. The first step in this prayer is the prayer of authority, a declaration that lust spirits have no power over you. These spirits operate by deception, feeding on your doubts, shame, and silence. When you declare authority, you cut through their lies. You command every spirit of lust, every temptation, every secret root of sin entrenched deep in your subconscious, to leave and never return. This is not a request. It is a command issued from the highest spiritual court, backed by the name of the one who gave you power over darkness. Authority means refusing to negotiate or tolerate even the smallest foothold. Lust spirits often cling to hidden agreements, words spoken in moments of weakness, unrepented actions, or subconscious patterns formed over years. This leads us to the second crucial element, renunciation. Renunciation is a powerful act of severing ties. It means boldly rejecting every hidden pact, every silent vow made to sin, every agreement your spirit unconsciously formed with lust. It is a spiritual breaking of chains that have bound you without your conscious awareness. Renunciation also requires confession. Naming these hidden sins, calling them out into the light, strips them of their power. Lust thrives in darkness and secrecy. Once exposed, its grip weakens. This is not about condemnation or guilt, but about liberation, bringing everything into the open, so God's healing light can burn away the corruption. In this prayer, you openly renounce all involvement in lustful thoughts, actions, and agreements. You declare, I reject and break every tie that connects me to this spirit. The imagery of taking back your kingdom is not an exaggeration. Imagine your mind and soul as a castle that lust spirits have stormed, raising their banners inside your wall. Prayer in 1 is the moment you stand at the gates, holding the royal scepter, and command every invader to leave. You reclaim every room, every thought, every desire, making it sacred ground once again. This is a spiritual eviction notice, unyielding, clear, and final. Finally, understand that this prayer is not a one-time act, but a foundation. Each time lust tries to re-enter, you reaffirm your authority and renounce any new foothold. This steady, uncompromising stance sends a message through the spiritual realm. Your kingdom is protected, your throne is secure, and lust spirits will find no rest or refuge in you. In summary, prayer in 1, authority and renunciation, is the essential beginning of your freedom. It harnesses your divine power, breaks hidden chains, and commands the enemy out of your life. Speak it with boldness. Take back your kingdom. You are not a victim, you are a sovereign warrior standing guard over your soul. Prayer 2, purity and protection, building the fortress of light. Prayer 2, purity and protection, building the fortress of light is not just a prayer, it is a spiritual declaration that sets in motion a divine transformation. When lust spirits attack, they seek to infiltrate the mind, body and soul through the weakest entry points: temptation, distraction, and vulnerability. This prayer acts as a powerful spiritual firewall, a sacred shield that burns away impurity and erects an unbreakable fortress of light around your entire being. The first and most vital step in this prayer is invoking divine purification. This is not merely a symbolic cleansing, but a real supernatural fire that consumes every trace of impurity in your thoughts, emotions, and desires. Imagine a fire so pure and intense that it penetrates the deepest corners of your mind, dissolving lust's grip like smoke vanishing before the dawn. This purification restores clarity and peace, uprooting the seeds of temptation before they can take hold. Next, the prayer calls upon protection, an invisible shield crafted by divine power that surrounds your mind, body, and spirit. This shield is a fortress of light, impenetrable and radiant, designed to repel all attacks from lust spirits. Visualize this fortress as walls of pure energy, glowing with holiness, standing firm against every assault. No longer does lust find cracks or gaps to exploit. Instead, it confronts a barrier so strong it bounces back every dark whisper and invasive thought. This fortress of light is not passive, it is an active spiritual defense. It empowers you to maintain purity in your daily life by guarding your senses, what you see, hear, and touch, from harmful influences. It protects your mind from wandering into dangerous territories and your heart from harboring corrupt desires. When this fortress stands, your spirit dwells in safety, free to focus on growth, purpose, and divine alignment. Furthermore, this prayer renews your identity as a holy vessel. It reminds your spirit that it is created for something greater than lust and temptation. It commands your body to align with purity, transforming it into a temple that honors the divine presence within. By building this fortress, you reclaim control over your desires and set a standard of holiness that lust spirits cannot penetrate. The power of this prayer lies in its deliberate and vivid invocation. It is not passive or vague. It commands with conviction and paints a clear spiritual picture. This clarity fuels your faith and conviction, making the prayer a potent weapon in spiritual warfare. When prayed consistently, it rewires your spiritual defenses, making it harder for lust spirits to gain any foothold. In summary, prayer in 2, purity and protection, building the fortress of light, does 3 critical things. It purifies your inner being with divine fire, surrounds you with an unbreakable shield of holiness, and renews your identity as a pure and protected child of light. This prayer transforms vulnerability into strength and opens the door to lasting freedom from lust's attacks. When embraced with faith and consistency, it turns your mind and spirit into a sanctuary where lust spirits find no place to dwell. This is the prayer that builds not just walls, but an impenetrable fortress of divine light around you. Prayer 3, renewal and strength. Rising untouchable. Prayer 3, renewal and strength. Rising untouchable is the final decisive step in breaking free from the grip of lust spirits. After commanding authority over the enemy and building a fortress of purity and protection around your soul, this prayer completes the transformation by restoring your inner strength and renewing your spirit's sanctity. It is not just about resisting temptation anymore, it's about rising above it, becoming untouchable, invincible in your commitment to holiness. Renewal begins with a deep, intentional request for restoration. Lust spirits leave wounds, spiritual, emotional, and mental, that weaken your resolve and cloud your judgment. This prayer acknowledges those scars and asks for God's healing fire to purify and restore the damaged areas within. It is an invitation to God to replace every broken piece with strength, clarity, and divine purpose. You don't simply want to be free, you want to be stronger than you were before the battle began. Strength in this prayer is multifaceted. It is the strength to resist, yes, but also the strength to forgive yourself for past failures, to move forward without shame, and to realign your desires with a higher calling. This prayer reconnects you to the divine will, the source of true power. When your heart's desires align with God's plan, lust loses its grip because it no longer fulfills any part of your inner hunger. Instead, your soul is driven by a holy passion that eclipses every worldly temptation. Rising untouchable means adopting the mindset and spirit of a warrior reborn. Imagine a phoenix rising from ashes, no longer weighed down by chains or scars, but soaring with renewed vigor and unstoppable energy. This prayer invokes that imagery, calling on God to ignite your spirit with a fire that lust cannot penetrate. It calls for a restoration of dignity, confidence, and a sacred boldness that repels darkness automatically. The power of this prayer also lies in its act of surrender and trust. It is a humble acknowledgement that true strength is not from human will but from divine empowerment. This surrender opens the door for God's grace to flood your being, transforming weakness into power and brokenness into unshakable resolve. In practice, this prayer is spoken with full conviction, not as a wish, but as a declaration, a spiritual command for renewal and strength. It is an active choice to embrace a new identity, one that lust spirits cannot define or touch. As you pray, visualize yourself shedding the old, contaminated self and stepping into a new form, a purified, strengthened warrior walking unscathed through temptation. Consistent use of this prayer ingrains a profound transformation deep within your subconscious, reinforcing your spiritual defenses daily. It creates a feedback loop where renewal fuels strength, and strength fuels deeper renewal, making your spirit increasingly untouchable over time. In essence, Prayer 3 is the rebirth of your spiritual identity. It seals the victory over lust, not just by rejecting the enemy, but by embracing a new, empowered self. This prayer empowers you to live boldly, free from the cycles of defeat, and walk forward with unwavering faith, dignity, and divine strength. When you rise untouchable, lust spirits lose every battle before it even begins. Beyond liberation, living as a crowned warrior of faith, true freedom is not merely the absence of chains, it is the embodiment of victory, a state where the soul no longer trembles under the weight of past battles but stands firm, crowned, and unshakable. To live beyond liberation means to step into your identity as a warrior of faith, carrying not just the scars of struggle, but the glory of conquest. It is a transformation that transcends fleeting moments of relief and builds a life fortified by purpose, strength, and divine authority. When lust spirits are destroyed, the fight does not simply end, it evolves. Liberation is the doorway, but living as a crowned warrior is the journey beyond that threshold. It means owning the power you have been given, cultivating daily habits that reinforce your spiritual defenses, and walking boldly with confidence that no temptation, no darkness can claim dominion over you again. This life begins with a renewed mind. The battlefield is no longer outside, it is within. Your thoughts, desires, and intentions become the citadel where faith resides. Through consistent prayer, meditation, and spiritual discipline, you rebuild that fortress stronger than before. Each day your mind is rewired, shifting from vulnerability to vigilance, from weakness to resilience. The enemy's whispers lose their hold because your spirit is anchored in unshakable truth. But being a crowned warrior is more than defense. It is about advancing with divine purpose. Your victory over lust spirits is not just for your own freedom. It is a testimony, a light that others can see. You become a beacon in the darkness, proof that transformation is possible. This power demands responsibility, guarding your heart fiercely, setting boundaries and living with integrity, so that your life becomes a living prayer, a continual act of worship. Living beyond liberation also means embracing grace. Perfection is not the mark of a crowned warrior. Faithfulness is. When setbacks come, as they inevitably will, you rise again stronger and more determined. The crown you wear is not earned by flawless triumph, but by relentless perseverance, by the courage to face your flaws and choose holiness over compromise every single time. Finally, the crowned warrior understands their authority. You are no longer a passive victim of circumstance, but an active agent of change. With prayer as your sword and faith as your shield, you stand firm against every assault. You speak with power, declare freedom over your life, and enforce boundaries that the enemy cannot cross. This spiritual authority transforms not only your inner world but also your external reality. To live as a crowned warrior of faith is to embody victory every moment, not because you never struggle, but because your identity is rooted in the one who has already won the ultimate battle. It is a call to rise, stand tall, and walk unshaken. Beyond liberation lies a life radiant with purpose, power, and peace. The life you were always meant to live. The battle against lust spirits is not a distant myth or a struggle reserved for a few. It is a daily war fought quietly within millions of hearts. Yet the power to conquer these forces lies not in endless striving or fleeting moments of discipline, but in the spiritual authority granted to you through unwavering faith and the fierce, focused prayers you have just discovered. In less than 5 minutes, with nothing but your voice and conviction, you can shatter chains that have bound you for years, uproot tormentors hiding in the shadows, and reclaim your mind, body, and spirit. This is not about weakness or shame. It is about awakening. It is about standing tall as a warrior crowned by victory, not defined by past failures, but empowered by the relentless strength of faith. The prayers that destroy lust spirits are more than words. They are spiritual weapons that reforge your identity and renew your soul's sanctuary. They transform your inner world from a battlefield into a fortress, impervious to temptation and full of radiant purpose. Remember, liberation is only the beginning. True freedom unfolds when you live daily as a crowned warrior of faith, when every thought, every action, and every breath is aligned with the power that has already won the ultimate victory on your behalf. You carry within you the authority to command darkness to flee, to shield yourself with divine light, and to rise stronger every time you face the fight. So stand firm, speak these prayers with the full force of your spirit. Let the chains break, let the shadows flee, and let your life blaze as a testament to the power of relentless faith. The spirit of lust has no place here. Your kingdom has been reclaimed. This is your moment. Rise, pray, and live.